Isn't that beautiful? Pink. Hey guys, just wanted to show you this beautiful rainbow before we get started in our discussion video today. It's going to be a good one, guys. Stay tuned. Just want you to see this beautiful sunset. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful. Hello guys, David Vose here. Oh buddy, is it a beautiful day here. I mean, it's just raining. It didn't even wait till evening. It started raining early and it's still raining right now. Just sprinkling right now. Well, hope you're having a wonderful day. Guys, I'm going to show you some things that we're going to have to come up with another term other than blow your mind, because this one's going to short circuit a few, relay switches or something, because I'm telling you, this stuff, we're going to find out things today. And not only find them out, we're going to know that they're really true. And I imagine there's still a few things out there we don't know. And so that makes it good, because that way we get to learn new things just about every time we do a video. I'm telling you, this is crazy. But let me read you something here. How did his life end? Well, with a mighty blow of his sword, Cushim severed Esau's head, which rolled into the cave of Machpelah and came to rest in Isaac's lap, where it remains to this day. Well, hold on, Isaac's lap? So wherever the head rolled, whatever cave it rolled into, we've talked about this cave of Machpelah quite a bit. It's under the Great Pyramid. This is going to definitively tell you who Osiris is, for an absolute definitive fact. That Osiris, now that probably doesn't come as a surprise to you, that the Great Pyramid is about Osiris. And the empty tomb in the Great Pyramid is the tomb that Osiris was put in. It was chopped up into pieces, and he was resurrected by his wife Isis, because she sat on his phalanx, which she had to carve out I don't know, she went out looking for pieces of it and couldn't find all the pieces. She couldn't find the phalanx symbol. And so she made one out of stone, and that's the obelisk. There were quite a few different obelisks there at Heliopolis. Well, they are monuments to the great divine beings, Osiris. And his brother Set killed him. And we were just talking about this, and this is part 2, friends. So somebody's head is in that cave, because that's called the capital of the world. And decapitation is where the word comes from. Now, the same story is told of the Capitol at Rome. It was built on someone's head. And if you'll notice, Jesus died at Golgotha, which is the place of the skull. So, it may not be just a parable then, when Moses and Elijah are taken up into heaven, and it says that their dead bodies shall lie on the streets of Sodom and Egypt. See, that always threw me, because I'm like, wait a minute, if this is literal, why would it have Sodom and Egypt? Those are two different places. Well, as we showed, there is two different Egypts. There's Upper and Lower Egypt, which is northern and southern Egypt in your way of thinking. And So there's east and west. This is an astrological wheel, and Heliopolis is the hub. So everything on the east side belongs to one brother, right? There's two seraphim. They each have 6 wings, guys. Pay attention. They're serpents. Well, they're flying serpents, so they're not the bad kind. But on the other side, the western side, you've got another son. So, interestingly enough, Esau gets the right side. And he ends up marrying the Canaanites, and that's the Gentiles. And if you'll remember, Esau killed Nimrod and became the ruler of Babylon, which is a kingdom that on the map is east from across on the other side of the Jordan, the east side, all of the land of the Arabia and all the way to the Euphrates. And a lot of times in the Bible it's confusing. There's all these pronouncements against this, that, and Edom and Moab and Ammon and all these woes and judgments. And then it'll end by saying, Babylon shall fall. I've got a great sacrifice in the land of Bozrah. Well, yeah, there are Arabs living over there in Iraq by Babylon. They're the peoples that live there in Babylon. And Bozrah is a place of Esau and Ishmael. Yeah, Ishmael was older than Esau, so Esau married Ishmael's daughter. And he married into all of them, and he became basically the Molech that reigned over the 12 tribes of Ishmael, which is Babylon. It's mixed with the Midianites, which is Keturah's children, Ishmaelites, which is Hagar's children, and Esau, which is Sarah's children. So they form this kingdom, and it is the entire Western kingdom. Because the two heroes, the two brothers that own the world, they divide the whole world up between the two. And so everything on the left side of the Jordan, all the way up to Syria, and all the way down to Goshen belonged to one side. And Esau got all the way up into Mount Hermon, all the way on the east side, clear up into, Asia Minor. And all the way down from Jordan east, all the way to the Euphrates or something, or maybe indefinitely beyond, all the way to India. Remember when Abraham went there, he stood on a mountain, which is the Great Pyramid, because there is no other mountain there on the Nile. He stood on the Nile, and they said, look north, east, west, and south, and all the land you see I'll give you. All the land that your foot shall tread upon, which meant the whole world, and that was the center of it all. And so you divide the circle into night and day, or left and right, and that's what you give the two sons, their inheritance. You see, this was before all the peoples had scattered. They started at Babylon. They scattered all over the world. Babylon, Egypt, that was the hub of everything. And from there, they went all over the world. Africa, Europe, China, Russia, even the Americas. That was the center. Well, that was the center after the flood. Before the flood, during the Atlantean period, it was in America, or the Atlantic, past the Atlantic and here in America was the center. It was a different geographical formation then. The geographical location where all the humans spread out from. So Abraham was the father of faith in the many nations. All these peoples in all the world will be his children. And all the people that live in India migrated from Babylon originally. So there's these two sides of the wheel. But why is it that in this rabbinical story, it's Esau whose head is down there? Because Esau, as we said, is Esau. And that is the root of the word Osiris, Esau Ra. And so Osiris and Esau, they're the same individual. And he's also called Edom, which I don't know why they do that, because it's exactly the same word as Adam. And why would he be called Adam? We're going to show you something that will not only pin this to the wall so that you can just literally write this down, get you some pens and a billboard and pin it up in your house and stare at it every day and go, I'll be darned. because it's going to blow your mind. You're going to want to pay attention, think about this for a little while until you can assimilate this information. But I'm telling you, Esau Osiris has so much to do with Jesus. You already know, those of you who watch this video, all my videos, you've seen all this information. The Caesars, right? Caesar is Osiris. It's just the way that it came down to him in that language. And we've got Kaisers and the Czars and the, the Laosiris and the Eleazars and all the, even Nebuchadnezzar, right? Even the Babylonians were czars. Because this mighty hunter was Esau. And so, the cave of Machpelah, we've talked about that before. The word Machpelah means some sort of a spinning vortex. And the reason why it is that, I'm telling you, you're never going to find this anywhere else, but it's because it is the center of all the geographical land masses of the world. And the Gilgal, which they put the 12 stones on the Jordan, because half of the 6 stones would be on one side of the river and 6 on the other side of the river. If you'll notice, if you follow the Jordan River all the way down, you can kind of go right through Egypt. It cuts right through northern and southern Egypt. And you keep right on going down the Nile. And funny because the Nile has its source in Lake Victoria or something way down south in Africa and empties into the gulfs there in the Mediterranean, in the little rivers of Goshen, into the Mediterranean. Well, the Jordan starts way up north and goes down and empties in the Mediterranean or in the Gulf there in that same kind of location. So you've got a river, flowing in to the center, coming from above in and coming from below in. There's obviously been some changes with the land masses of the world, but there could very well have something to do with the rivers that flow out of Eden. At least it seems that they renamed those areas as Eden, because I think Eden was originally in America, but they've got the Gulf of Aden there. But you see, living water comes from the center. That's the well that Abraham made the covenant with Abimelech. Abimelech gets the one side and Abraham gets the other side. And then it goes down through their kids. And every family on the face of the earth has got to be mixed. They're all the same people. They don't even know. They're fighting over tribalism and traditions, and they all got the same traditions. They all got the same stories. They all read the stars the same way, and they all have the same blood because everybody goes back to Adam. And all the people that lived on the west side of the Jordan, the Judeans, they married Tamar, the Canaanite. So their entire race, all the royal blood, everywhere in the world, if they're from King David, because he married Bathsheba, which is also the well of the oath that Abraham made with Abimelech. So all of them, every one, it's interesting. A lot of people say, well, that's not fair if you go to the Old Testament or the New Testament. All it gives you is the male line. Adam had this son and that son and this son and that son. It's like, where's the women, right? Well, here's what you don't understand. The women are all there too. It tells you who these men that were the links, the descendants. It gives you their names of the wives and so forth. And if you look at who the wives are, they happen to be every one of them Canaanites. There's always a big story about it. So that people on the west side wanted peace with the people on the east side, so they married their wives. And the people on the east side married the people on the west side so that, right, now here, get this. Joseph, a son of Jacob, marries Shechem, a Canaanite, marries her daughter. But their daughter was of Jacob and Shechem. So it's, in a sense, it's just every one of them is mixed. Every family is mixed back and forth. So I don't know why people don't understand that land is everybody's land. That's where Moses stood over there and made that covenant with all the peoples. Because when the people came up out of Egypt, most people don't understand this. He brought the 12 tribes and the nations, which is 72. And the 72 came from the loins of Jacob. So it records that they came up a mixed multitude. When they brought the children up out of Israel, they came up a mixed multitude, the great multitude which no man could number, of every tribe, tongue, and people. Because you see, this place called Egypt wasn't just Egyptians, it was Midianites and Ishmaelites and Esau and Jacob, and it was the whole world. And then when they split, they kind of divided the inheritance between the two brothers. Because his children, Abraham's children, Isaac's children, Jacob's children, were all married to Canaanites. And by the way, Jacob had 4 different wives from different nationalities. Abraham 3, Keturah was in the east. You've got the Ishmael, and you've got Esau that went west. And then you've got Jacob, which also splits that, right? So everything's split. It's always male and female, then law and spirit, and then, or law and grace, or right and wrong, or up or down. It's just a story of an endless genealogy of a man who marries who? This woman? Who's this woman? Why is he marrying this whore? Why is he marrying this Canaanite? We hate the Canaanites, but they always do. And then the promised child is born. And this is why, in order to be the high king, you've got to have a long name, right? Nebu, Nizar, El, Ra, right? Zeus. You got to have this long name. He's like, I'm the son of all of them, right? My mother's line went back to the royal side of the woman. My father's side went back to the royal side of the man. But my father's maternal side goes back to, all the kingdoms, the grand kings. I represent all of you. I don't have favorites. You're all my children. The only way you can have peace is for the man and the woman to marry and make peace and walk as one and in unity and being subject one to another. Not by law, but by love, by willingness, by kindness. But the flesh is ignorant and is learning and growing. And when it gets separated from its higher consciousness, they both kind of go crazy. They need each other. So it says that with a mighty blow of his sword, Cushim severed Esau's head, which rolled into the cave of Machpelah, which is there under the Great Pyramid at the location near Kairos, which is the exact central geographical location of all the land masses, and came to rest in Isaac's lap. So, somehow or another, the Esau, his dad was already down there. Why? Because this cave is where these great individuals were buried. And this is where Jesus died. Now, let me show you something that will completely flip your lid here.
I cheated this. This is, Arizal sees this on a day-to-day basis. Mystical, you want to believe, don't want to believe, it's not my business. It's your problem. That's Arizal. This same Arizal, he had a chidush, and he says, Yeshua Notzri, the one that started Christianity, the one that was a student of Yeshua ben Parachia. He's the Gilgul of Esav. He's the Gilgul of Esav. Reincarnation of Esav. Esav died, his neshama came back as Yeshu. It's not finished. It's not finished. Esav, his father was Gdol Ador, Yitzchak Avinu. His grandfather is even bigger, Avraham Avinu. His twin brother is going to be the leader of Am Yisrael, Yaakov Avinu. But you go in the Tanakh, and you go to Sefer Malachi, the prophet. Christians like prophets. Sefer Malachi, chapter 1, right in the beginning. Ve'oav et Yaakov ve'et Esav saneti. Chapter 1, verse 2. It says, and I loved Yaakov, Hashem says, and I loved Yaakov, but Esav, I hated him. I hated him. Why? Do you ever hear Hashem saying, I hated Paro? Paro tortured us for years. You ever see Hashem say, I hated Paro? No. You ever see Hashem write, Nebuchadnezzar destroyed Bet HaMikdash, destroyed my house, destroyed the Bet HaMikdash? You ever see Hashem write, Nebuchadnezzar, I hated him? No. No. Esav, I hated him. Why? He knew the truth. His father's Gdolador. His grandfather is a bigger. His brother's a tzaddik. Every day he says, I'm going to do tshuva. Every day he says, I'm going to do good, I'm going to do good, I'm going to do good. The next day, Rasha. No tshuva. Esav saneti. Arizal, the Arizal HaKadosh says, Esav, Gilgul, Yeshu. Now I heard a chidush recently by Rabbi Glazerson, who deals with Torah codes. Chidush of the chidushim. He says he uses Torah codes. He says you look at Sefer Bereshit, you look at the book of Genesis, you look at the time, the page, the paragraph, everything. When Esav was born, we're not talking about the entire Torah, we're talking about just exactly mamash when Esav is born. Esav, Yaakov, born. Talks about Esav. It says on that page, you're going to find Esav, but you're also going to find Yeshu. 6 times. That's not enough. You're going to find Yeshu, a Notzri. Not enough. Yeshu, a Notzri, Slav, will be crucified. Not enough. His mother, Miriam. All same page within 5-6 verses. Not enough. Gilgul. Esav, Gilgul, Yeshu. What do you want? You want him to come out of the Tzwar Otachan and tell you he's not good for you?
And then notice this. Esther Rabbah, a collection of Midrashic literature about the book of Esther, made this claim. 2 orphans were left to Esau, namely Remus and Romulus, and you, Divine One, gave permission to a she-wolf to suckle them, and afterwards they arose and built Rome. The Zohar notes that the greatness of Rome was attributed to the exemplary trait of Esau in honoring his father. Rabbi Isa said, it is written in Malachi, a son honors his father and a servant his master. Such a son was Esau, for there was not a man in the world who showed as much honor to his father as he did, and it is thanks to this fact that he obtained dominion in the world through his descendants, the Romans. We have Rabbi Moshe ben Naaman, known as Naamanides, or the acronym Ramban, writes in his book, Gate of Redemption, we who rely on the opinion of our rabbis of blessed memory believe that we are presently in the exile of Edom, or Rome, that we shall have no respite from it until the coming of the Messiah. The Edomites, the nation around Mount Seir, descended from Esau, were the first to mistakenly follow after the man who claimed that he was the Messiah. They also ascribed godliness to him when they came to the land of Italy. Their error spread to the nearby city of Rome. There, in the days of Constantine, who ruled over Rome, the council, under the authority of the bishop of the city of Rome, determined their belief in him and established it as the religion of the empire. This, above all else, is the main cause of the reason that Rome and Edom are considered as one kingdom, although they are different nations. In spite of the differences, They are related because of their uniformity of belief, which makes them the people and one nation. The sages of the Targum thus explained that Rome is the Grecian Italy and that many of the Edomite people are contained therein. Hence, Rome is called, O daughter of Edom, Lament 4:22. The connection between the church and Esau was emphasized in a recent lecture by the prominent Rabbi Jacobson, who cited the blessing given to Esau after the blessing of the firstborn were given to Jacob. According to Rabbi Jacobson, the brother that the descendants of Esau will serve or worship is Jesus, a descendant of Esau's younger brother Jacob. Yitzhak, or Isaac, was talking about an extraordinary phenomenon in history that will change the history completely. Rabbi Jacobson explained he described it as a prophetic vision of how history is going to develop. If this is true, it is a source of hope, for the Torah forbids the Jews from harboring enmity towards the descendants of Edom. Then we look up on the Goggle Brothers about this, and it says the true sages, accepted as tradition that the soul of Esau was reborn as the soul of the founder of Christianity. And that is why he is called Yeshua, which is an anagram in Hebrew of Esau. And that is why any who follow his religion and his faith and worship him should properly be called children of Esau, Edom. This is Miyodia. Does Arizal really say Yeshu was the reincarnation of Esau or Esau? This web article on page 4 states that the Arizal taught in Sefer Ha-Gilgulim, see Gilgal's the wheel of reincarnation, and the Sefer of the reincarnation, chapter 67, that Yeshu, Jesus, was the reincarnation of Esav or Esau. Anyway, it says, indeed, according to the teachings of the Arizal, revealed to him by none other than Eliyahu, or Elijah, Yeshu was none other than the reincarnation of Esau, the brother of Yaakov Avinu, Sefer HaGilgulim of the Arizal, chapter 67. Pretty clear, according to the Judeans. That they are very, the rabbis are very clear on this. We'll take a look at this. Israel 365 News. What's the connection between the biblical Esau and President Trump? President Donald Trump is a reincarnation of the biblical Esau, son of Isaac and Rebekah, according to Torah scholar and international speaker Rabbi Mendel Kessin. At a talk in Jerusalem that lasted well over 2 hours, Rabbi Kessin laid out his Bible-based case that Trump has a singular role to play in preparing the world for redemption. He did not claim that Trump is the Messiah, though Rabbi Kessin said Trump is a messianic figure, meaning he is connected to the process of moving redemption forward. Rabbi Kessin began his talk by quoting the verse from the Bible that speaks about the 2 nations that Rebekah had in her womb. One was Jacob, who through his 12 sons was the ancestor of the Jewish people. The other nation in Rebekah's womb came from Esau, who, as Rabbi Kessin explained, became Edom, which became Rome, which became Christianity, which became Western civilization. In Genesis 25:23, it is written, and the elder shall serve the younger. The older is a reference to Esau, and the younger to Jacob, though they were twins. Esau emerged first, as is plainly stated in Genesis. Well, look at this, guys. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Theosophy Trust Memorial Library, Reincarnation in Judaism. And it just talks about how in the Zohar, the Talmud, and other works, the sayings of the Jews, all of which built up a body of dogmas accepted by the people and the rabbis. Hence, sayings of Jesus, of Paul, and others have to be viewed with the well-known and never disputed doctrines of the day, held down to the present time, borne well in mind, so as to make passage clear and show what was tactically accepted. So it says, so when we find Herod listening to assertions that John or Jesus was this or that or the other prophet or a great man of olden time, we know that he was with the people speculating on the doctrine of reincarnation or coming back. And as to who a present famous person may have been in a former life, Given as it is the gospel as a mere incident, it is very plain that the matter was court gossip in which long philosophical arguments were not indulged in, but the doctrine was accepted and then personal facts gone into for amusement as well as for warning to the king. To an Eastern potentate, such as a warning would be of a moment, as he, unlike a Western man, would think that a returning great personage would of necessity have not only knowledge but also power, and that if the people had their minds attracted to a new aspirant for the leadership, they would be inflamed beyond control, and with the idea that an old prophet or a former king had come back. So, talks about the Jews from whom Jesus was born and to whom he said unequivocally he came as a missionary or a reformer. The Zohar is a work of great weight among the Jews. It is a metempsychosis or a lean begilgula. Gilgal's the reincarnation. But it declares that men do not know the way they have been judged in all time, that is, in their revolutions. They lose a complete memory of the acts that they have led to judgment. This is precisely the theosophical doctrine. The Kether Malkuth says, if she, the soul, be pure, then she shall obtain favor. But if she hath been defiled, then she shall wander for a time in pain and despair, until the days of her purification. If the soul be pure, and if she comes at once from deity at birth, how could she be defiled? And where is she to wander, if not on this or some other world, until the days of her purification? The rabbis always explained it as meaning she wandered down from paradise through many revolutions or births until purity was regained. Under the name of Din Gilgal Nishoms, the doctrine of reincarnation is constantly spoken of in the Talmud. The term means the judgment of the revolutions of the soul. And Rabbi Manasseh, son of Israel, one of the most revered, said in his book, Nishmat Hayim, the belief or the doctrine of the transmigration of souls is a firm and infallible dogma accepted by the whole assemblage of our church with one accord, so that there is none to be found who would dare to deny it. Indeed, there is a great number of sages in Israel who hold firm to the doctrine, so that they made it dogma, a fundamental point of our religion. We are therefore in duty bound to obey and to accept this dogma with acclamation, as the truth of it has been incontestably demonstrated by the Zohar and all the books of the Kabbalists. These demonstrations hold, as do the traditions of the old Jews, that the soul of Adam reincarnated in David. Now, friends, think about this. Ada, the im is plural, Ada, and Ada, the. They're the same word. This is not something I'm making up. The Jewish people will show you these kind of anagrams, and really the root word is an A and a D. Now you can put a vowel in the front and in the back, or just in the back, or just in the front. You can have ad or da, but either way, it's going to be dada or dad. And you do that in English too. I can say dad without an A at the end, or I can say dada, or daddy, or dada. Just like mom or mama. So Adam and da, vid, which is where it came down in other languages that have these sounds at the end that maybe not pronounced in other languages. So we have divine, deity. This is where we get theos. So David was Adam, and that on account of the sin of David against Uriah, it will have to come again in the expected Messiah. And out of the three letters ADM being the name of the first man, the Talmudists always made the names Adam, David, and Messiah. Hence, this is the Old Testament, and they will serve Yahweh, their deity, and David, their king, whom I shall reawaken for them. That is, David reincarnates again for the people, taking the judgment of deity on Adam. For dust thou art, and dust thou shalt return. The Hebrew interpreter said that since Adam had sinned, it was necessary for him to reincarnate on earth in order to make good the evil committed in his first existence. So he comes as David, and later is to come as Messiah. The same doctrine was always applied by the Jews to Moses, Seth, and Abel. The latter spelt Habel. Habel was killed by Cain, and then to supply the loss of the Lord gave Seth to Adam. He died. Later on, Moses is his reincarnation as the guide of the people. So Seth then is Moses in his reincarnation as the guide of the people. And Seth was said by Adam to be the reincarnation of Abel. So Cain died and reincarnated as Jethro Korah, who died, the soul waiting till the time when Abel came back as Moses, and then reincarnated as the Egyptian who was killed by Moses. So in this case, Abel comes back as Moses, meets Cain in the person of the Egyptian, and kills the latter. Simply, it was held that Balaam, Laban, and Nabal were reincarnations of the one soul or the individuality. And of Job, it was said that he was the same person once known as Thara, or Terah, the father of Abraham, by which they explain the verse of Job, though I were perfect, yet would I not know my own soul, to mean that he would not recognize himself as Thara. All this is to be had in mind in reading Jeremiah. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest out of the womb, I sanctified thee. Or in Romans 9, verses 11, 13, after telling that Jacob and Esau being not yet born, Jacob I have loved and Esau I have hated. Or the ideas of the people that Elias was yet to come first. Or that some of the prophets were there in Jesus or John. Or when Jesus asked the disciples, whom do men say that I am? There cannot be the slightest doubt then that among the Jews for ages and down to the time of Jesus, the ideas above outlined prevailed universally. Let us now come to the New Testament. St. Matthew relates in the 11th chapter the talk of Jesus on the subject of John, who is declared by him to be the greatest of all, ending in the 14th verse. And if you will receive it, this is Elias which was to come. Here he took the doctrine for granted, and the if referred to not to any possible doubts on that, but simply as to whether they would accept his designation of John as Elias. In the 17th chapter, he once more takes up the subject and says, why then say the scribes that Elias must first come? And Jesus answered and said unto them, Elias truly shall come first and restore all things. But I say unto you that Elias is come already, and they knew him not, but have done to him whatever they listed. Likewise shall also the Son of Man suffer of them. Then the disciples understood that he spake unto them with John the Baptist. The statement is repeated in Mark 9, verse 13, omitting the name of John. It is nowhere denied. It is not among any of the cases in which the different Gospels contradict each other. And it goes down here, it talks about the man who was born blind. In this man's case, he was born for the glory of the Lord to be made known, which all men are blind, and so we have to come back into the world that we might gain experience, understanding, and knowing, so that the glory of the divine being, that we might become like the divine being, knowing good and evil, to become like deity. Then he mentions the time when he says, some think he's John the Baptist, some Elias, and others Jeremiah. So they were looking for Jeremiah and one of the prophets, any of the prophets. They believed that any of the prophets and all the prophets would return. And then if you go over here, he mentions Revelation. He that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my deity, and he shall go no more out. Well, the temple is the physical universe. The body is the temple of the Lord. So you enter into the body. But in this world, we enter in and we leave. We die. But there'll come a time when we'll enter into the body and go out no more. Now, I want to show you something here, and I've never seen this point before spoken of anywhere. So this is something that it's a great big possibility. And it says that Esau is the elder son of Isaac, as we know. He's talked and mentioned in Genesis, Obadiah, Malachi, the New Testament, Epistle of Romans, Epistle of Hebrews. Born in Canaan, died in Canaan. Who are we talking about now? Esau. Born in Canaan, died in Canaan. Now, here's an interesting thing. His spouse, his wife, was Ada. And remember, his name is Adam. Right? Now, who is his children? Eliphaz, Ruel, and Korah. You ever heard of Korah? He had a rebellion with Moses. Well, they were the priests there with Moses. Korah, and what is this Ruel? Well, that's the other name of Jethro, Sometimes the Bible calls him Jethro because it's Yahthro, and other times it's Ruel when he's acting as a Melchizedek priest. And as a Melchizedek priest, we find his true name is Reuel, who was the son of Esau. So, yeah, Jethro, Ruel, was the high priest of the Midianites, the Esaites, and the Ishmaelites, the Midianites, and these Egyptian individuals. And their high priest was Esau, and his son was Ruel, or Jethro. Isaac and Rebekah, these are his relatives. But it says, according to the Hebrew Bible, Esau is the progenitor of the Edomites, brother of Jacob, and says Esau's a man of the field, became a hunter who had rough qualities. He was red and hairy. Well, the word red just means he was Adam. He looked like Adam. I don't think it's trying to say he was red. Humans are humans, and some humans aren't red. The Bible never says this human was this color or that color. I mean, there are colors in people's names. Laban, where Sarah's father was, means white, and Cham means burned. But we don't know if it means black, except that many of Ham's children were darker skinned. But I don't believe that the Edomites were characterized by being redskins, unless you're saying, like the Indians, the redskins, But what we're talking about is they were made from the earth. They were Adam. They were earthlings. Oh, I noticed down here it says Genesis 26 describes Esau's marriage. He's 42 years old to two Canaanite women, Judith, the daughter of Biri, the Hittite, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon. But going down here in the book of Jubilees, now an inspired work, and we were saying the other day that Jacob didn't kill Esau, he just stole from him. Well, evidently he did kill him, here it says, and we read that it might have been Cushim that cut off Edom's head. Well, here it says, then Yaakov bent his bow and sent forth the arrow and struck Esau, his brother, on his right breast and slew him. Jubilees 38:2. Yaakov buried his brother on the hill which is in Aduram, and he returned to his house. So, Ra may also be another name for the Great Pyramid. In Jewish folklore, the Roman Emperor Titus was a descendant of Esau. But then we have this other story that's in the Babylonian Talmud. Esau was killed by Husham, son of Dan, son of Jacob, because Esau obstructed the burial of Jacob into the cave at Machpelah. That's the cave we were talking about. So Jacob was brought to be buried in the cave. Jacob was brought to be buried in the cave. Esau prevented the burial, claiming, why is Esau able to do that? Because Esau had the land around there, around the Great Pyramid. That was his side of the land. And Jacob took the other side, but he wanted to go back and get buried with Abraham and Isaac and with his fathers. Well, Esau was reigning there, and he said, no, you can't be buried there. So Esau prevented the burial, claiming that he had the right to be buried in the cave. After some negotiation, Naphtali was sent to Egypt to retrieve the document stating Esau sold his part in the cave to Jacob. Husham, who was hard of hearing, did not understand what was going on and why his grandfather was not being buried. So he asked for an explanation. After being given one, he became angry and said, is my grandfather to lie there in contempt until Naphtali returned from the land of Egypt? He then took a club and killed Esau, and Esau's head rolled into the cave. So he was buried there after all, because that's where he belongs, because he's Adam. His head rolled into the cave of Machpelah under the Great Pyramid. This is telling you now what I've been telling you for a long time, that the cave of Machpelah is under the Great Pyramid. It tells you this right here. But now, think about this. The story is that Esau, had his head cut off. Not only that, it rolled into this cave at Machpelah, which the Old Testament says is Kiriath Arba. Kiriath is the city, and Arba is the four. And there were these four great pyramids. Now there's only three. Where Cairo is, they had to get rid of the one to make Cairo, they claimed. But there was originally four. And this was the world capital, Heliopolis. And later on, Rome, a world capital, is also called a Capitolium, or a place of a decapitation. And Jesus goes to Golgotha, to Calvary, to the place of the skull. Well, what is this thing with the head? You know, there was like a lot of Templars that were said to rever some head. Skull and bones have a head, and people think it's evil. Some say it's not. It's just the head of John the Baptist. Some say the Baphomet is Baptist. We don't know. There may be an anagram there, but we're not going to go into that. But some kind of a head is revered in ancient history. It is obvious, Adam, and we've seen that this Adam is reincarnated in Esau. And also we've got John the Baptist who got his head cut off. And Jesus says he's the greatest man that was born of woman. Wouldn't that be Adam? I don't know, but it's interesting. And we've talked about this in many videos. But there is some kind of mystery that, you know, would probably take another video or two to get through and to explain. But we've done it. Those of you who've been watching all these videos, you probably heard some of the things that we've been talking about. But we've never really had all the information. You know, like we have pieces of it. We keep getting pieces of the information. You know, we hear about maybe for some reason there's somebody buried under there. We're not quite sure who. All the patriarchs, or might be the divine beings. We've gone through this revelation that the Adam down to Noah or down to Lamech could be the Enneads of the Egyptians, the 9 deities, and then the Ogdog, or the 8 that survived the flood. And we've talked about all these names and the synchronizations, and it's all beginning to make sense. And so Anu is Noah, and this is the world we live in. But before that, there were other deities that go back. And we've got a lot of this Ada and David and Dada and Mama. We've talked about all of this. It really seems like the mystery that the Bible holds is being held tight. That we've got a Rubik's Cube that is not your typical 6-sided Rubik's Cube. Is that how many sides? 1, 2, 3, 4? Yeah, something like that. Well, we may have 1,000 squares on one side, and we might have 1,000 sides. This is going to take a lot of work. And you got to expand your mind, and it's really hard to do. You might use a computer that doesn't look like anybody's really interested in doing that. But I'll tell you that with prayer, you can look at these parables, and as you begin to understand how these parables open, these are what they used to call mantras, and you thought about the mantra, and you got wisdom. Why? Why did your sage, your shaman give you a mantra? Well, you have to learn, and you can't comprehend it. You have to meditate on it and let your subconscious spiritual inspiration come through, because you can't do it with your conscious mind. So when you study the Bible for years with prayer, the Holy Spirit speaks to you throughout the day and begins to reveal these mysteries. And the prophets and the Apostle Paul talked about these revelations, and see how I understand the mysteries and the 7 mysteries and the mystery of godliness and the mystery of iniquity and all of this. What are these mysteries? Well, they're sayings and words that were written in the stars. Nobody understood it. To this day, every nation on the face of the earth, the gospel was preached to them all, and they have no excuse, Paul says. Well, what do you mean they have no excuse? We don't understand it. Well, that's it. We are being deceived. Okay, so The Judeans are completely deceived. Why? Because they're going by the letter of the law. They're not looking into the esoteric meaning. The Apostle Paul says, the Spirit giveth life, but the letter of the law brings death. And there's so many fundamentalists and so many individuals like Jehovah's Witnesses and Adventists and even modern Mormons and things want to take things so seriously, so literally, that they are missing something. Elijah sat quiet for 40 days and 40 nights, didn't eat any food on Mount Horeb, the mountain of light. And we're always quoting, it says, be still and know that I am deity. Of course, we don't normally point out that I am is part of this whole revelation. Know that I am. But it's I am divine. Who's divine? I am. And how is it we're going to understand this? Not with a conscious mind. The mind's running, racing. You can't figure it out. You can't worry it out. But if you be quiet, not still, it has nothing to do with the body being still. Sitting in a yoga position, it doesn't matter what you say or the sound of your music. You can, tingle some chimes or light some incense or, have nice, beautiful candles burning, but nothing's going to work. But sincerity of heart and truth and seeking the Lord, knocking, and he will open it. And the truth is this great mystery that's written about in all the scriptures from the prophets and in the stars and in the Great Pyramid that teach us about who we are, that we are the divine ones and who our ancestors were and the promises that they made. And I tell you that the answer is a lot of things, a lot of beautiful things. One is that we're all going to be saved. He loves us all. He will not lose a one, no, not one, except the son of destruction, that the scripture might be fulfilled. Now, the son of destruction is this Yahweh, right? The destroyer, who is the lower ego. But you see, he's not a person. He's a spirit. He's a spirit that operates in the air, the power of disobedience. But a spirit isn't a person. It doesn't have a personality. It doesn't have a soul. And normally it doesn't have its own body. Spirits have to possess and get into people and make them go crazy, but they don't have their own body and they don't have their own personality, their own soul. It's just spirits. It's just this lower illusion that's spirits, mental things like fear, hate, jealousy. And so it says, I am vengeance, that is my name. I am jealousy, that is my name. But Jesus said, I am the truth, the way, and the life. So we've got to understand we are the reality. We've got to understand what the reality is good. And that all the children of the world, we all came from Adam. We all came from both sides. We got the flesh and the spirit. Nobody's going to earn our salvation. We can't judge one another. We've got to love one another. And the glorious gospel is that we must forgive one another and love one another. And remember the Good Samaritan? Yeah, the Judeans got to help out the Samaritan, and the Samaritan's got to help out the Judean. The flesh has got to cooperate with the high mind of the spirit and know that the flesh can't work it out on its own. You've got to give in and have faith and trust in the Lord and trust in his goodness. You didn't know all about all this stuff that was in the Bible. You didn't know that the Lord had written it down for thousands of years that he loved Esau. That one who hated Esau, that's you, your lower ego. You're the one that says, I am God and there isn't else. That's you who blaspheme the spirit within you, the love that's beckoning you. And you deny it. You deny the Holy Spirit, don't you? You deny the love. Oh no, I love love. What? Lust? No, we're talking about love. What is love? Well, I love. Love is giving. Well, I can't die for someone. I want to live too. Okay, but if you want to live, you got to understand the principle of life. Life is living and abundant and full of energy, and you give and you receive. You can learn that principle and you understand by faith that you are the divine one. And if you really are the I am, and you'll know that by being quiet in your mind and not trying to work out all your problems out with your flesh, but by trusting in the one who can save you and deliver you. Just trust and know that I am the divine one. I am. As Jesus said, I and the Father are one, and you're one with us, as I am one with the Father. So what we're discussing here is salvation. And salvation, not only is it grace, but it's grace for everyone, even the Gentiles. And not only that, isn't like, well, afterthought, we'll let the Gentiles come in too. No, the Lord provided from the very beginning for Cain, for his redemption, through his daughter. The flesh of all of us will be redeemed. I guarantee it. Anyway, we're just about an hour here. There's not too much more I can add on to this today. I think we'll hit this at another angle as we go tomorrow and start getting into other things that correlates with this, because there's a lot we need to understand about who this man was who was beheaded and why he was beheaded and what all this means. And we'll get to that. I'm going to go ahead and go. Hope you have a wonderful evening, friends, and may the Lord bless you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.